they have risen to the occasion.
Yeah.
As we speak, Ghana School of Law lecturers had a meeting about a month ago.
Yeah.
We established a committee. We have had our own bill that, and I'm telling the public for the first time, that we are going to present to the attorney. I actually received the draft copy, which is almost ready on Monday.
Just a bill to reform legal education.
Yes. Yes.
Which is different from what the AG is talking about.
I don't know. At that time, I didn't know what the AG.
When did this process you are describing start?
This is about a month ago. When the idea was mooted.
By who?
A few members of parliament. We all heard a few members of parliament saying that there
so you have a draft bill that you want to submit to the AG?
Yes. The AG is our minister.
Meanwhile, the AG has already gone ahead to announce a draft bill, which is going
it doesn't
to
matter. But you know, bills, parliament, even when it's gone to parliament, they will invite memoranda.
I see.
Yes, and this is our minister.
So you're confident that there will be a meeting of minds and that the current Ghana School of Law will not be abolished?
At all. Why will it be abolished? The Ghana School of Law can also operate like any university offering LLB. When we entered,
but just see, if the man says the Ghana School of Law system is being abolished, the school is part of the system.
No,
so if you abolish the system, the school may exist but in a different form.
You see, you understand that when a statement or a document is presented to you, you read it as a whole.
Okay.
Before you can make an informed decision or understanding.
Okay.
He went on to talk about what he means by the system, mainly examination.
Really?
And I've told you, Ghana School of Law doesn't organize examinations.
No, he talked about universities being allowed to provide practical legal education internally.
Yes.
And successful students will write a national exam.
Bernard, one, we have what we call the post-course system, which we organize.
Yeah.
For persons, especially Ghanaians, who for some reason have had to go to Gambia, the US, the UK, and the other common law countries to study law. Once they apply and show that the law they have studied is consistent with the requirements of the subject that we are to do here.
Okay.
They apply, we do interview in accordance with law, and we take them year on year. On the average, we don't get less than 80 people. That is one. There are people who have already finished Legon. There are people at the Ghana School of Law right now who finished Legon, UPSA, GIMPA 20, 30 years ago. They are back. Are they also going back to their own school? The number of over 3,000 people that are waiting, you don't think the Ghana School of Law will be the appropriate place for them to come instead of going back to their own schools? Again, don't forget that we are excited because the competition will be good for us. Again, the Ghana School of Law doesn't have its own statute. As I told you, it is owned by the General Legal Council under the Legal Profession Act. So why won't we be happy to have a statute like the Dombo University? I was there just 2 weeks ago. University, KNUSC, Legon, UPSA, GIMPA. Why can't the Ghana School of Law be excited to have a similar law, establishing it officially, so that we can also now do what the universities do? When we entered Makola in 1997, we had people there, QCL. They were doing the LLB right there at Makola for 2 years, and then joined those who are coming from Legon for 2 years. Why can't we get the opportunity to organize that for them as well? And so we are not afraid of any decentralization or change whatsoever. If there is an act that now establishes the Ghana School of Law like any other, as I've told you, just in the last 3 weeks, more than about 4 universities have applied to also offer LLB courses. Why can't a school called Ghana School of Law? We already have the lecturers, more than 100 lecturers. We are already having the system called internship, which is what, if I got one word the Attorney General used was clinical, if I heard it right, in the portion that I said I got. That is our clinical. It was even part of my vision that we wanted to extend it so that individuals from the communities can even come to Ghana School of Law, sit down with the students. These are my problems. Can you call my landlord so we resolve the rent issue or marital issues that we are allowed to resolve with a judge, with a lecturer, and with a student. That is the clinical system that we are also rolling out already. So if there is any institution that is well prepared for even the little we have heard from the Attorney General, it is the Ghana School of Law.
So at least we know that the Ghana School of Law itself has some recommendations for reform. The Attorney General also says there is a proposal for reform. Hopefully, by the time the process is over, we will see the full document. This is the point of view. We're speaking to his nanaship. That's the moniker he's given. The director of the Ghana School of Law. He's been in office since 2022. A justice of the Court of Appeal, and of course the Marahini of Achim Ebuakwa. We call him Nana Berima Yaokode Opon. We'll be right back with more, including views around very interesting legal issues on land and landed property, and as well as some other matters. Stay with us.
My name is Anis Hafor. I'm currently serving as the chairman of the Barstow Ghana. What I've noticed with Barstow Ghana is that we are introducing the American curriculum for the first time into the country. And the interest that I have in it is that we want to do something that's a little different.
At the Barstow schools, we believe that true education extends beyond traditional learning. It is about preparing our students to thrive in a globally interconnected world. Our Ghana campus embodies this philosophy by offering a rigorous curriculum aligned with our Kansas City home campus.
Our mission is to promote sound scholarship and to give symmetrical development to mind, body, and character.
Welcome back. So tonight, my guest is a man of three parts. He's a justice of the Court of Appeal. He's the director of Ghana School of Law, and of course, he is the Marahini of Achim Ebuakwa traditional area. We're looking at legal reform. He's headed the Ghana School of Law, which until recently was the only institution where you could professionally qualify to become a lawyer. Of course, there are some reforms being contemplated. In your 3 years, 3 months, what would you say has been the most significant thing you've achieved as director?
Well, let me be modest. I think that, first of all, I stood on the shoulders of those who have been ahead of me. But I would say that at least the rate of students passing with quality and valuable credentials has completely increased. I mean, in the last 3 years, from 2022 to present, we've got about 3,310 students.
Wow.
Being qualified to the bar.
Okay.
Let me give you the exact number. Yes, 3,310.
Okay.
As at this year May. We expect more, maybe close to 800 in the next call to the bar in October.
And what percentage is that?
The percentage, the 300, the 3,000. So let me tell you that. Let me give you these statistics quickly. We call something the role of lawyers. That is a document that contains the name of any person who has applied to practice law here. I'm saying so because some did their law in the UK and other countries. So this started in 1877. 1877. From 1877 to 1962, and I'll tell you why 1962. We have approximately 570 persons whose names have been entered in the Rule of Lawyers.
From 1877 to 1962.
You tell us how many years that is.
That's close to 200 years.
Yes. So sorry.
100 years.
100, close to 100.
A few years below 100.
Yes.
577 lawyers.
570.
570
yes.
lawyers. Okay.
And I said 1962 because it is in 1963 that the first set of lawyers trained in Ghana at Makola were called to the bar.
1963. 63.
Yes.
All right.
So the next is, so from 1963 to 2025 May, we have 10,000.
Wow.
832 persons whose names have been entered in the roll of lawyers. Then from 1877 to 2025 May, we have 11,402. Now, out of this, from 2022 to 2025 May, as I already said, in the last 3 years, we produced 3,310.
So that's almost 1/4.
Almost 1/4 of all that we have
in our history.
Over 150, almost 150 years.
In the 3 years that you've been?
In the 3 years, yes.
Hey. Is it a question of demand or the approach, or both?
Well, as I said, that will be modest, but by the grace of God.
But could that also, because don't forget that prior to your coming, there was always the issue of people not being able to gain entrance. So the demand may have been there, but the window was small. So maybe then, based on some of the things you've discussed, more people had a chance for the training.
Yes, and also, when people are motivated, including the workers, they give up their best, and the benefit ultimately trickles down to the students, as I would say. Yes. So we have projected that, looking at this number, we have projected that it will mean that each year 1,103 students are called to the bar on the average. So if you take the next 20 years, it means that then approximately we will have 22,060 lawyers being called to the bar.
Wow.
22,060 lawyers being called to the bar between now and the next 20 years.
Interesting.
Between now and 20 years time. So,
is there enough quality faculty to deal with those numbers?
Oh yes. I mean, as you can see, especially so now we don't organize the exams. So if our lecturers are not doing well, there's no way the students will have been able to pass examinations set by an institution called Independent Examinations Committee. So all praises to the lecturer. And of course, when you come to the Ghana School of Law and you see how intensely committed these students are with their studies, I don't think I've seen it anywhere else. I mean, speaking for my students.
Will opening the proverbial floodgates not lead to a reduction in quality of legal training?
Well, I beg to differ. I'll give a simple example. iPhone. I'm a very, maybe not the same fan of iPhone. I don't think, maybe there are only a few people who are like me. But when iPhone releases their phone, millions are released. How many times have you heard that there's a problem with a new iPhone release? So there is possibility, and actually we are doing it, achieving both quantity and quality. And so the two should not be separated at all. Go to the court. And you will see that, especially when we decided that, look, the internship should not be done during vacation. It should be done whilst we are in school. So you come to for lectures 2 days, you go to the court 2 days, alternate for 3 months. And then the other 3 months, you alternate. You go to the chambers 2 days and come for lectures 2 days. Totally 6 months. Our time, the first time I went to court was when I was doing my moot court. That is the last practical. That was the first time I entered the courtroom. But here they are live, going to chambers, going to the court with the lawyers, or being in the court. And I know that the judges have been very generous within the law to allow these students to study, to know what is going on. So by the time they enter pupillage after school, they know so much in terms of practical than we had the opportunity to benefit from. Yes, so I'm not surprised that, and of course, above all, is by the grace of God. I mean, we have not discounted the overriding, if you like, benefit that we receive from God, and that has been our banner.
So now that you are a justice of the Court of Appeal, are you, and you are directing the law school, are you able to do both? Or is it like you are on secondment from the judiciary to run the School of Law until
Okay,
you are finished?
so
How does it work?
I started as an employee of the General Legal Council in 2022, and then when I became a judge, incidentally, last month, 23rd. No, we are still in July. It was last week that I had 1 year as a judge.
So 2024 July.
Yes.
Was when you became a judge.
Yes, 23rd July. So then I was seconded to the Ghana School of Law to manage the school,
which is a full-time work.
Yes, I don't take money for teaching. I don't take money for teaching. I don't take money, different money as a judge. I only take my salary as director of Ghana School of Law. Yes.
So teaching is your passion. So you do the teaching for free.
Oh yes.
And but what about?
And last year,
yeah.
Well, the auditors told me I could have earned 100,000 plus, but I didn't take it.
If you had wanted to.
Oh well, I didn't think that it was right. It will amount to double salary from the state.
I see. Because the work of a judge is quite demanding.
Oh yes, you have to write judgments.
But do you have a softer schedule as a judge because of your additional
No. Whenever the Chief Justice needs you, they will call. I was to sit on Monday, and I informed the Chief Justice I had to be in Kumasi. So I was scheduled for yesterday. We considered over 25 cases at a go. So
wow.
Once you have the energy, offer yourself and.
But you had practiced for many years as a private legal practitioner.
Well,
before you were nominated.
Let me say that I was called to the bar in '99. So I practiced for close to 25 years.
Your area of interest as a lawyer, for somebody who's a non-lawyer, and based on the books you've written, you've said civil procedure, but I know you've done a lot on landed property.
Well, land, yes. Because at the law school we teach what we call conveyancing.
Yeah.
The documentation that will enable you to acquire land and so. So what I do is normally when they are on break, I can just send a message that I just want to come there today to together do revision on the conveyancing. Yes, and I can also go to other classes. Well, again, I even also forgot. I also teach constitutional law at the post-call level.
For those who are
those who have done the law in
outside, because then they need to familiarize our constitution.
Yes, so I also teach them on record to teach them, and again, I don't take anything for them.
My question had to do with why land cases seem to dominate. I'm told that if you break down the number of cases,
it could be about 80%.
Yeah, land is it that it's a complex area or just human behavior? why are so many as against say other types of commercial disputes?
But obviously,
family law and stuff
land
like
is, for me, maybe apart from life, land is one of the most important inheritance that you can ever acquire for yourself or bequeath to you. And so people have also now learned about how to protect their own land. The good thing about that, Bernard, that there is sufficient data to show that Ghanaians have never lost faith in the judiciary. I mean, matters that would have gone to, let's say, some deity, no, they will now take it to court because they believe that in court they will get finality to the dispute. And now also we have the ADR system running very effectively. And so people are happy to go submit themselves to an independent arbiter, a judge or an ADR expert who is not sitting as a judge, able to resolve the matter and bring families who have been torn apart by serious land disputes. And so when you hear about it, I would have wished that at their level they could resolve them. But on the other hand, when you see so many cases coming to court, with all the problems we may have with it, it also confirms the absolute confidence that these people
the
have.
fact that they come to court, tells you that they believe the court is where they will get.
That is where
if they were not coming to court, it would have been a problem.
Yes.
So even though coming to court shows there's a problem, not coming to court would have been worse.
That is what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we would have wished that at the level of the chiefs, and they are doing a lot of work in settling some of these. Otherwise, the court would have been more choked, as it were, than you know. So I'm very happy that if these matters cannot be resolved amicably, they should just go to court, and there they can resolve the matter. I will tell you just some interesting one. In the district court, you can even see more. There was this case that my uncle asked me to represent the family in Nkoko. Then we went there. It's about land. The man said the lady has put a kiosk on his land, and she said, I took it from your father, not you, and so on. So the man took the matter to court. And there, when the case was to start, said they will show him, they showed him the Bible. He said, no, I don't want the Bible. The cross, the Quran, I said, no. So, my Lord, what else should I do? He said, okay, you can affirm on your faith. Wow. Then he said it in Chi. I said, Ma'am, the bar court. Say, Mami, Odi for Antonia Menkuno. Ajay. Means me for Antonia Menkuno. In open court. In open court. My God. And the judge called me, counsel. What do I do? And I said, my Lord, by the time we finish this case, one person would have died. So, well, we got settled.
Wow. That's interesting. In fact, when I come back, I'll ask you about that, because I was going to go into being a traditional leader.
Yeah.
And combining that with court, because there are also a number of chieftaincy disputes.
That's right.
How does the experience of that help? And then last week there was a very interesting front page story for the Graphic. Chiefs can renegotiate sold lands. Justice Osei at some training made some interesting comments about one of our important laws. We'll talk about that. Okay. This is the point of view. Don't forget, later we'll be bringing you highlights of the National Agribusiness Dialogue. Minister of Trade and others speak to us on the silence of that event. Don't go away.
Remember who we are seeing now. At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her 20 ebitiminya prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu nadia obefamu.
Actually, this is not my fault.
And to wada, entina midi maniche Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center is a unique medical center where we harmonize in-depth traditional medicine with cutting-edge science and technology to cure, to treat, and to prevent diseases like prostate enlargement, prostate cancer.
Executive Prostate Center. Madame home facilities no any professional medical care.
Sisi a bibia clear our system no. Ye nro ne so de natural. Into we koso afama ye.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
Welcome back. This is still the point of view. Tonight we're speaking to Justice Yao Kode Opon, but of course it's Nana, so Nana Justice, or as he said, his nanaship. He is the Marahini of Achimbe Buakwa. He's the director of the Ghana School of Law. He's also a justice of the Court of Appeal. So, as a chief who's a judge, do you get a lot of chieftaincy disputes being deferred to you? So maybe there's a discussion and they say, oh, okay, this is chieftaincy, so since you're a chief, let's push this to you. Is that something that practically happens? And even if it doesn't, would you say that being a chief makes it easier when you sit on a chieftaincy matter?
Well, first of all, at the Court of Appeal, any case can be given you. In fact, when we started yesterday, land, criminal cases, matrimonial, every case that is assigned to you, you should be able to determine it. So I haven't been lucky to be exclusively assigned a chieftaincy matter. But I will tell you that I sit, at least I've done one case at the chieftaincy level at the Traditional Council at Chibi. And I have another one that I'm going to start. So there, it's exclusively chieftaincy involving sub-chiefs as they are, and some dispute about whether the person was properly nominated, selected, elected, installed, and the rest of it. So I do that also at that level. But in the court, you are probably, when you get such matters, you can opt to write a judgment or a ruling if it is ripe for judgment. So that then your knowledge in the customary law, but mind you, customary law is not general in Ghana. It's the law applicable to particular communities in Ghana. So the fact that you are a chief in Achimbe Buakwa traditional area might not necessarily have equipped you with the knowledge of the law in, say, Wa or a community in Wa, for example. So you are also careful not to think that what your customary law says should necessarily apply to other communities in Ghana and how they have also nurtured and built their own customary law.
Yes. Let's talk about this matter. So last week, Justice Osei Tutu, who is
the Justice of Court of Appeal.
So your colleague?
Yeah, we were sworn in the same day, and he also teaches.
He said a change of a chief as a result of death, abdication, or bestowment does not affect the status of land sale transactions existing within the jurisdiction before a new chief ascends the throne. Now, he said this during a certain training, and what I wanted you to comment on was that he observed that in spite of the various provisions in Act 1036,
the Land Act,
to ensure accountability of chiefs in the sale of lands, lapses in the Act had made it virtually impossible to enforce such a provision. For example, he said, although the Act criminalized lack of accountability on the part of a chief in the sale of lands, there was a lack of clarity on the ingredients of such an offense. Such challenge, he said, had made the provision on accountability of chiefs much ado about nothing.
Well, I have commented on this in my book. I think you have a copy. I should bring you a copy another time. So, number one, I have said that provision that criminalizes lack of accountability by a chief, it is, well, the lawyers call it fulmen brutum, toothless bulldog. Okay?
Or a toothless bulldog.
Yes, some say brutus fulmen, but it's a toothless bulldog because, I mean, it is one of the provisions that the lawmakers should have known will not work. Rather, the system has its own inbuilt procedures and remedies for accountability. The first one is that they believe that if a chief squandered money meant for the stool or a head of family fails to account for monies that has come to him as a fiduciary, a trustee, you know the first punishment he may receive, the ancestors will call him to come and account.
So there's already spiritual accountability.
He will die. At least they believe in that.
Yeah.
And that is a more formidable remedy than to say that Ochiame or Ahinkwa or a member of the stool should actually go to the police station.
But what if he's not dying and he's still stealing our land?
That's aside.
What do we do?
There is also a ground for his removal. Chiefs, as we see it, are not as quote and unquote unaccountable as we think by using such laws. I have completely discounted it, and I'm not surprised that we are seeing is non-compliance, as it were. It's not going to work. Rather, I've suggested that there should be arbitration. Systems are in the palace that will rather work far better when you think the Ohima we see is not your ordinary Ohima, a very powerful institution, even though it's vested in a person. You understand? They have their own means. You imagine if you are Ohene in, say, Achimebuakwa or Asantimai, you'll be disturbed instantly. After they will give you a hearing.
You are saying that within the customary arrangement, there are inherent remedies which may be more effective than the prescription of the Act.
Maybe they are actually more effective and potent. And this provision rather will end up creating more problems in the communities. You go and you take a chief to the police station. The chief is taken to court and convicted. Okay?
But it's not above the law.
I'm not saying it's above the law. There are other laws. Customary law is part of the laws of Ghana. Article 11.
But there's hierarchy of laws.
Well, the constitution itself is there. But what I'm saying is that we should make laws that have the potential to work.
You are saying people cannot enforce the law, Act 1036, when it comes to chiefs misconducting themselves in managing what they are supposed to be custodians of.
I'm only telling you that, as my good friend Justice Osetitu is saying, it is a law that no one who is even going to report the chief in the first place.
Maybe a rival.
Well, then after that, you come and ask them to install you.
But if the chief is violating the law, he should, because the other thing you said,
don't
forget, you said that customary law is not general, which is why we need a general criminal code. In some areas, customary law may prescribe things that can be a remedy to a chief's misconduct, but in some areas it may not. So I'm saying that we should rather elevate 1036 or whichever law, so that if a chief is in violation, it can be applied.
But it's there. It's in 1036 already.
So why are we not applying it?
So that is what I'm saying.
Because we are putting a wrong interpretation on the powers of chiefs.
I am not. What I'm telling you is that you see, we should make laws that work in our environment. Some of these laws, I've had the opportunity to critique them. Some are imported from elsewhere. Laws should be binding principles that people know that they have sufficient deterrence in them. One, the law is in the act. He's telling you that nobody is respecting it. Not that nobody is respecting it.
Because nobody is enforcing it.
Yes. Because who is even going to report the case to the police? So don't get me wrong. I'm saying that it's a good law. It must be there. But as far as I'm concerned, a more effective way to hold chiefs accountable, and including suing him.
Could it be that could it be that offense has not been clearly defined well?
I don't think so. The fact of the matter is that it is a law that was stillborn. It was stillborn. I mean, dead on arrival. And it is important Parliament take a second look at it, and rather the systems that have been provided. There are more than 15 provisions on arbitration alone in Act 1036.
That may be a more useful way.
That would be a more useful way. Otherwise, then if the people don't go and report the chief to the police, then there will be impunity.
So for chieftaincy matters, for some of these matters, arbitration may be more sensible than regular
I won't
litigation.
even use may. It is indeed.
Arbitration is the way to go.
It is indeed.
Interesting. So, based on your reflections on all of this, are you minded to write another chapter on the merging of customary and formal?
I believe in God, so I think God is speaking through. But I think the ancestors are also provoking, because that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment.
Because I think that we need that.
I'm actually writing on the influence of customary law on even our legal system in particular.
Because I think the issue of development is also a question of sometimes when you just pick the English common law and want to apply it to people who behave in a certain way. You know, the Japanese, the Chinese, and all of these guys who have developed.
They're not doing that.
They've understood. But that means people like you must step up and tell us that this is what tradition means and this is how you explain it from the mindset.
Bernard, if you read the whole of chapter 1 of my book, in fact, substantial part, it's on customary law and how it evolved.
Maybe we are not reading it.
Yes, well,
because when we read that,
the book is too big. But
I'll read chapter 1 because I actually think that our development puzzle includes a lack of understanding of who we are.
Yes.
And if you are able to throw light on customary law because we were trained to think like the British.
Exactly so.
So you need to, but that's your job now.
Yes, we are on it. That's why I said that. If you take my book, every chapter is actually the beginning of a new book. So I've started with the customary law separately as a book.
Correct.
And you will see that the interesting part is that our customary law is not rigid. It even admits to some relevant English principles. There's one I'll put in it.
Wonderful.
My mother never went to school when she died at 101, but she knew about mutual damage. Mutual damage. You understand? Yes, damages. All the lawyers call damages.
Yes.
Which is compensation for a wrong.
She understood that.
She also understood mesamount.
Yeah.
Which is summons. 90% of our cases, especially all cases on land, you have to commence the action by the issuance of a writ of summons.
Wonderful. By the way, when are you wrapping up your tenure?
Oh, well, I was given a term that will end not too long.
So this year?
No, not this year. Not this
Next year?
probably, but I mean,
we'll see how it goes. Depending on how the law.
don't direct my path. So
You know how
wherever
the
you ask
law
me
goes.
to turn,
Depending on how the law goes, you may be the final director of the School of Law. But if
well,
you still
but
exist,
I will never believe that the Ghana
Well-
School of Law will cease to exist ever, not in our lifetime.
okay, you know better than I do on these matters. Thank you, Nana Justice Berima Yaokodie Opon. I got that right. Amazing. When we come back, we'll take you to highlights of the National Agribusiness Dialogue, which was held a couple of days ago. The Minister, Elizabeth Osojare, and others spoke to us on the importance of that. Don't go away.
Ghana, get ready! The biggest sales event of the year is back. National Sales Leaders Conference 2025, organized by Core Event Solutions, powered by MGA Consulting, and proudly supported by Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana and Association of Ghana Industries. Happening on August 19th to 21st at the Accra International Conference Center. The special guest of honor for this big event is the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Deborah. Join over 2,000 participants, including CEOs, Managing Directors, Sales and Marketing Heads, among others, for 3 unforgettable days of insights and high-level networking with 68 seasoned speakers tackling 25 impactful topics across various industries. This is the one event you can't afford to miss. Reserve your seat now. Visit www.nslcaccra.org or call 0502-711-070 to secure your ticket. NSLC 2025, redefining sales excellence for a dynamic market.
So we're here at the sidelines of the National Agribusiness Dialogue organized by the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. The minister herself has joined us to talk about this vision. Why is she so excited about this agribusiness forum? What is agribusiness, by the way, and how critical is it for national transformation? Honorable Elizabeth Osojare, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So even though I'm welcoming you here, this is your conference.
Yeah.
So many people. Why is this conference important and why have you invited all these guys here?
Thank you very much. As you rightly said, this is an agribusiness dialogue. This is leading to a policy formulation. And I think all the people in this subsector has to be invited. I want a policy that is inclusive, a policy that is coming from the people themselves, a policy that they can own so that at least it will be well implemented. If it's coming from them, then you know that it is going to solve a problem. It is going to create opportunities because you see, agribusiness has been there for long, but there hasn't been a policy properly so for to manage it. And so I think that if you are doing a dialogue, you need to bring all of them to bear so that they will bring their expertise, their expectations, their fears, their anxieties. We will, look at what it takes to have a good agribusiness policy. So I brought all these people together so that we have a near perfect agribusiness policy.
Some people are wondering why agribusiness is even under trade and industry, because some are expecting this to be under agric. Can you explain the link between agribusiness and trade and industry?
So agribusiness is there to solve a trade and industry problem. If we depend on agriculture by exportation of our produce, then you know we are not going anywhere. It is the second leg, that is the value addition, that helps. And value addition is industry. Value addition is trade. Once you produce, then you have to sell. So once you bring agribusiness in between trade and industry, you have brought it to its proper place because you are going to add value as in industry and you are going to trade as in trade. And so, and you know, in trade, you are talking about both import and export. So the right place for agribusiness is the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
So what relationship do you have with ministries like Agric ministries like fisheries? Because I think there were reps from some of those ministries also here. How do you work with these other ministries?
Okay. So at the agribusiness subsector, we are interested in value addition.
Yeah.
So we are expecting the Ministry for Fisheries to bring up policies that help people to produce more fishes. If we have a lot of fish, we will be able to add value to fish, as in tuna flakes that you see in the can. If we work well with the Ministry of Agri, they will scale up the production of raw materials so that we can add value to the raw materials. Even though at the agribusiness subsector, we are also interested in feeding industry. And in feeding industry, we do two things. We feed industry with agri products and non-agri products. So since we are talking about agribusiness, I'll talk about products from the farms. We specifically do what we call contracts commercial farming. That one is specifically to feed industry. You know, we've done agriculture over the years, and we still import about 90% of our raw materials to feed industry. So the institution of agribusiness in that industry is to give us the opportunity to produce raw materials in commercial contract quantities to feed our industry. You realize that there are some tomato factories that have shut down. The factories are in good shape. The only problem is raw materials. And so as I speak to you right now, there is a company in Brekum that we are working closely with to help them with commercial contract farming. So that one is not for your soup or stew. It's not for the market. It's for industry. And so we work well with the Ministry of Agriculture, even in helping us get the agriculture people to do the right things, proper agricultural practices. These we get the expert from the Ministry of Agri. So we work hand in hand with fisheries and agriculture to make sure that our industries are fed well, especially industries that produce agriculture.
Let's talk about finance.
Materials.
I know you invited finance people. There were 23 banks. All the development banks were there. We also know that MasterCard and some other development partners were also here. How critical is finance to agribusiness, and what are you expecting to hear from the deliberations from the finance group?
Okay, so when you are talking about agribusiness, it is finance, finance, and finance. To enable you do agribusiness, financing is very key. In other jurisdictions, cost of financing is good. In Ghana, cost of financing is very high. And so we continue to engage the financial institutions to let them know that if you are financing an agribusiness, the rates of interest has to be looked at. Fortunately, now Excellency John Dramani Mahama has created the enabling environment for businesses to thrive relative to interest rates. So we think that is a step in the right direction. The banks can also do better by giving long-term loan to agribusinesses, because it takes time for you to introduce a product, for the product to get attention, and before you can get the required sales. So if you take short-term loans, you are not likely to succeed and you cannot be competitive. And so we brought the financial institution to understand what we do, to understand what agribusiness brings to the table and the need for them to finance agribusiness. We also brought a lot of development partners because they are already helping us in the space. Top of MasterCard, they are doing a lot in the agribusiness area. And so we want more of these institutions, Agra, all of them to come on board. IFAD is also on board already. I want more to come on board for new products. I am excited that these development partners have come to listen to us, to see which area they can collaborate with the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry to make sure that agribusiness is doing well.
You are from the Bono East region.
Yes.
It's part of what people consider to be Ghana's breadbasket.
Yes.
But for some reason, productivity is not that high. Indeed, today, one of the speakers said the 5 regions of the north plus OT and I think your region have over 60% of our arable land. Yet they don't have any strong agro-processing factory. Will this agribusiness exercise also mean the setting up of large-scale agro-processing plants in places like in Koranza or even from your place up? Because that's where the land is. It's a transition zone. We produce a lot of cashew, produce a lot of products, but it looks like all the factories are down south. What will this agribusiness forum and dialogue do for that as well?
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to a policy that helps business people to locate their industries in other parts of the regions where raw material is available. I'm looking at Techiman, I'm looking at Mporanza. In Techiman North, I'm putting up a cashew factory, and it's to process cashew apple, not the nuts. Because you see, we don't even pick the nut at all. If you process the cashew apple, it's value extension. And so you give more value to the cashew nut farmer who plants cashew. Originally, you not have use for the cashew apple, but now if this factory starts, then after picking the nuts, they also sell the cashew apple and make more money. And I'm looking forward to a policy that incentivizes business people to put factory in these areas so that we can have value addition and value extension.
This is the point of view. We have a special program today. We're bringing you conversations on the sidelines of the National Agribusiness Dialogue organized by the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. The sector minister has been talking to us about all the stakeholders here and why agribusiness is critical. She sees agribusiness as a bridge between trade and industry. She's talking about value addition, inputs and finance. Now, so after all the deliberation today, are we saying that the product will be a national agribusiness policy? Just walk us through what you expect and whether there will be any new law passed. What are we expecting after today's deliberation?
After this deliberation, we are looking forward to a policy that enhances agribusiness space, a policy that incentivizes people to invest in this area, a policy that makes the ease of doing agribusiness easy, a policy that helps the financing of agribusiness, a policy that helps in the production of raw material in the right quantity and right quality at the right time. I'm sure that this dialogue will be able to bring all these to bear. As you rightly asked me, all the people in the agribusiness space have been invited. They have done this for long. They know the challenges. They know the opportunities available. So I'm looking at them coming together to tell us what they need so that agribusiness can do well. As a ministry, we already have a draft. But we also want them to add their bit, practical bit. And as I indicated earlier, we want a policy that is inclusive, that solves a problem, and that gives opportunity.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll be speaking to the Honorable Elizabeth Ifosu Ejare. She's MP for Techima North and Minister for the sector. Very exciting discussion. When we come back, we'll speak to more people as this National Agri-Business Dialogue continues here at the Kempinski Hotel. Stay with us.
Remember who we are singing now. At risk of prostate enlargement. We a member or her 20 ebitimi prostate cancer. 5 bitimi afamu na dia ubefamu.
Actually, this is not my fault.
And to wada, entina midi meniche Executive Prostate Center.
Executive Prostate Center is a unique medical center where we harmonize in-depth traditional medicine with cutting-edge science and technology to cure, to treat, and to prevent diseases like prostate enlargement, prostate cancer.
Executive Prostate Center. Madame home facilities no any professional medical care.
Sisi a bibia clear our system ni. Ye nro ne so de natural. Into we koso afama ye.
Executive Prostate Center. My cured.
Every day is packed with its own surprises. You never know which thrill is around the corner.
Feel good. Feel good.
Or how it will play out. There's a sense of excitement.
Did our plane just stop? Another cash out.
That adds a little magic to my everyday.
Feels like a party tonight.
We're still here at the sidelines of the National Agribusiness Dialogue, and it's brought to us by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Agribusiness. One of their key partners and sponsors is PwC. The senior country partner is Vish Ashiabo. He's joined us to just touch briefly on some of the things he thinks the dialogue should focus on. But let me start with what role, because I know you guys audit, I think you do 4 things: advisory. What's the other one?
we're a full-scale professional services firm. That's how we like to describe.
I know. I just want to remind listeners. So something called audit,
assurance, tax, advisory services, basically consulting, risk services, deals. Yes, that's what we do.
How big is agribusiness in your portfolio?
Well, to be honest, currently it's not that big, but it ought to be. Because if you take a country like Ghana, and I think you hear it in so many discussions and dialogues about how agric, in fact, ought to be the center of everything we do in this country because of the potential it has to spur on our GDP growth.
Yeah.
But beyond that, also the job creation, and then the impact it can make on the lives of most of our citizens. Yeah. So it really ought to be more than it is. And again, that's why we're so interested in this discussion.
Since you are coming just off the budget,
yes,
I couldn't help but notice that agric employs 39 point something percent of the people. That's about 40%.
Yes.
Yet GDP contribution of agric is 19.
Yes.
So basically 4 out of 10 Ghanaians are working in agric.
That's right.
But they are producing only 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Or actually 2 out of 10 of our output. So that tells you there's a productivity problem there. Based on the work you do at PwC, what's the missing link there?
So the missing link, I think, was clearly articulated in the morning session. So some of the experts who spoke, I think, made reference to the fact that most of the value comes from the latter part of the chain, the agribusiness side, the processing, the manufacturing into further manufacturing. Whereas in our situation, we are unfortunately still focused on the primary agriculture aspect of it. And again, that is why we are so interested in this dialogue and this discussion, because if we can connect the primary to the value addition, to the processing, and then to the market, then we all benefit. So I believe, and we believe as PwC, that this is the missing link. And this is what this dialogue ought to be focusing on.
One big issue is financing.
Yes.
Generally, the types of financing available for agric is not diverse. So you have a lot of people in commercial banks. You have 23, but some people feel commercial banks may not be the best. So we've now done things like Gesal. We've brought in DBG. But somehow interest rates are stubbornly very high. Some people discuss structural issues in the sector. Again, what do you think? What are we missing when it comes to the finance conversation for agric and agribusiness?
So Bernard, it's actually pretty straightforward. The solution may not be straightforward, but what we're missing is clear. It's, again, back to the link between primary agriculture and the value addition piece of it. So, again, as was discussed in this morning's session, we are heavily reliant on rain-fed agriculture.
Okay.
Right? So now, if you're a financier, you are thinking about the whole chain in terms of when you invest the money or you lend the money to, let's say, an entrepreneur or to a farmer in this case, how are you eventually going to get that money back? What are the risks that you're going to face in that process, and how do you mitigate those risks? So if we can modernize and use technology, innovation, use data, for example, that can reduce the risk of the chain. And simple things, well, maybe it's not so simple because there's money involved, but things like irrigation, right? So that you're not dependent on or not entirely dependent on weather patterns, etc. All of that can help reduce the risk of financing. And as I'm sure you will appreciate, the rate at which lenders give out money is heavily determined by the risk associated with the lending that they are making. And the agric sector, unfortunately, has been deemed and continues to be deemed to be very, very risky, simply because we're not as modernized as we ought to be.
All right. So we need to de-risk the sector.
Absolutely.
Now, but generally, the macroeconomy seems to be stabilizing. We are in a lower inflation period than we're like 2 years ago. I think inflation is around 13-ish.
About 13 years.
Yeah. The T-bill rates have come down.
Yes.
Exchange rate has also pretty stabilized.
Yes.
The only thing we're waiting for is the MPC rate, which we sort of, a lot of people expect to come down. Just a quick thought around that. How critical is the macro for the kind of long-term transformation we need from agric? Because a lot of times, even the details around the risk and things in the sector, if the macro is unstable, people are not confident to even put money back in. We seem to have stabilized in the last 6 months. How long do you think this should last for for other players to see that we are in some sort of transformative era?
So the discussion about the macros, yes, it affects the agri sector, but it affects all sectors.
Correct.
So to that extent, if the macro environment is stable or more stable than it has been, your entrepreneur, your investor, your lender will not necessarily come to the agri sector because they have other sectors they could go into.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be looking at the situation holistically when we talk about agriculture. So the macro is one side of it, but there are some risks that are inherent and that are specific to the agri sector. And so if we're able to mitigate those risks, coupled with the stability that the macro environment provides, then I think we can direct funds or more funding towards the agri sector. Because in actual fact, agri, again, as was said in this morning's session, everybody should be interested in it because at the end of the day, we all eat. And therefore, it would ordinarily seem like a good business venture to invest in agriculture. But the risks in our current environment are so significant, and that's why we're not attracting the financing. So one of the outcomes of this dialogue, we hope and we expect, will be some tangible actions to further de-risk the sector so that even as the macros stabilize, then more funding can be directed to that sector as opposed to others that are perhaps less risky on the face of it.
I know that PwC, you do sector-specific work, energy,
yes,
infrastructure. Has agri caught your attention in that sense, in terms of its transformative capacity? Would you be minded going forward to invest a bit more brain power into that sector to guide government policy on agri and agribusiness going forward?
Bernard, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we agreed to be part of this dialogue.
Yeah.
Again, part of what we do in PwC, or what we aim to do, is to bring some of our competence, our skills, to support economic development generally, because we all benefit from that. And today, when you look at how agric is going in different parts of the world, people are focusing on data, people are focusing on technology, people are focusing on climate, and general environmental and social matters. These are all areas that PwC is interested in. And we have the privilege of being able to draw expertise from across our international network that we can bring to bear and to make good impact for all of us here in Ghana. So absolutely. Yes, we haven't been traditionally known as a Greek people, but we're beginning to take those steps. And it's an area that we're very interested in because of the transformative opportunity that it affords.
So you actually believe that from being agrarian, if we are going to industrialize, agro-industrialization should be the starting point?
Yes. I guess we already have some. So I wouldn't say a starting point, but we need to make it more resilient and to build upon it. And then we need to connect the dots from the primary to the processing and then to the market. And in today's environment, with the kind of technology that's available, with the kind of data insights that are available, we think it's absolutely possible.
Let's end with ESG.
Yes.
What is ESG and why is it important in a conversation about formulating a policy for agribusiness?
So ESG is all about sustaining the ecosystem, if I can put it that way. There is no point in doing something today that then creates a problem for you or for all of us tomorrow. So in simple terms, ESG is how we ensure that there's continuity, the sustainability, and that we protect the environment that all of us live on, so to speak. So in the context of the conversation we're having today, we believe that it's a critical element. I was in one of the breakout sessions just before I came down to talk to you, where ESG is being discussed. And we're talking about preserving trees, for example, because it helps in terms of the climate, and there are other benefits, that we could talk about at length. But suffice to say that it's all about making sure that there is a tomorrow and that for future generations, they can also have the benefit of being able to feed themselves.
Thank you, Visha Siabo. Always good talking to you.
Thank you very much.
He's the senior country partner for PwC, who are one of the partners here at the National Agribusiness Dialogue happening at Kempinski Hotel. There's more. Stay with us.
Every day is packed with its own surprises. You never know which thrill is around the corner.
Feel good. Feel good.
Or how it will play out. There's a sense of excitement.
Did our plane just stop? Another cash out.
That adds a little magic to my everyday.
Feels like a party tonight.
We're still here at the sidelines of the National Agribusiness Dialogue. Over 72 private sector firms, 23 financial institutions and more, 16 trade unions and business associations, 6 CSOs, and a large number of government agencies. Pivotal to this is the Agri Impact Group. That group is both a sponsor and the technical organizer for this event. Daniel Fahin-Akwe gave a resounding speech before the president spoke, and he is talking to us now about why this is very important. Mr. Akwe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bernard.
Wow. That was a great speech.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. You sort of explained why we needed an agribusiness ministry.
Yeah.
Even up until now, we didn't even know why it had to stay with trade. You explained it so well. Why is agribusiness critical to you? Because I know you do a lot of work in agric. Why is agribusiness critical, and why is this conference important?
Agribusiness is a layer on agriculture. So anytime you promote agriculture without promoting agribusiness, you are likely to have high post-harvest losses, and you also don't get value for money, because the value in agriculture is actually in agribusiness. Okay. Now, when you see programs, they distribute fertilizers, agro input, seeds. Every time we are providing tractor services, and most of the time it is towards agriculture. But where are the agro processing companies who will take the raw material that will come and process them into value-added products? So the market will take what it can take, the rest will go into post-harvest loss. And that is why, because there is that huge disconnect between agriculture and agribusiness, that is why we have a post-harvest loss valued at $2 billion.
Wow.
And I gave an example that in South Africa, primary agriculture contributes 2.9% to their GDP. But when you bring in agro-processing, the logistics and the transport and the services together, then agribusiness alone contributes 10% to the economy. And that translates to $41 billion that agribusiness breaks into the South African economy.
You said something quite interesting. Let's not say what agribusiness can do. We already know. Let's now talk about what we can do for agribusiness. Can you explain that?
Yes. There is empirical and spiritual evidence telling us what agribusiness can do. And we have said this over and over. Agribusiness can create jobs. Agribusiness will transform our economies. We'll come back and say that, agribusiness can increase our GDP. Agribusiness will reduce unemployment. So now we know what agribusiness can do. So agribusiness is now asking us the question, what can you also do for me? Because I have told you what I can do. So I am also sitting in the chair. You have sat in the chair and I've gone around working for you. Now I'm sitting in the chair. I'm also asking you, what can you do for me? So I want us to move from situation where we keep talking about potential without impact. We need to move away from potential. Agri impact has the potential to, yes, we know. We don't want that again. We want to say agri impact has done. And that is why I say we should move away, we should have a journey moving from it can or we can to we will. And tomorrow we come and say we have. And that is all that I want to say.
You developed 5 thematic areas for this dialogue. I would like to touch on each of them briefly. So let's start with agriculture, finance, and investment. The minister said agribusiness is finance, finance, finance. You invited Kwesi Krobo to lead that session. What is the missing link in agri finance and investment that you expect some recommendations on?
Fortunately, we had the opportunity to participate in some of the flagship projects like 1D1F. And since we are also in the agribusiness space, we do develop business plans, investment plans for agribusiness firms. You will go back to the firms and realize that it is not necessarily they have the intention not to service their loans or they have the intention not to apply the funds, but the kind of financial product that was given to them was just not conducive for the work. I visited a factory where the business owner has done investment plan. It rained and there was a huge erosion around the factory with gullies. Now he has to move some of the working capital to fix the investment or the infrastructure. That automatically reduces his working capital. In the end, you have a factory and no working capital to operate. And that is what we've been seeing along. When it happens, then the agro-processing firms are saddled with what we call legacy debt and does not even make it possible to go for additional loans. So we need what we call agri-fund. And that agri-fund, I said, we have an extractive industry. And agriculture is a regenerative industry. It's not extractive. So the revenue and the royalties that we are getting from the extractive industry, why don't we set aside a percentage and move it into an agri-fund? When you have agri-fund, you can plan because you can predict and know that every year I am going to get X amount of dollars or X amount of cedis into the fund. It helps the government to even have a long-term planning, which is sustainable in nature, because you know the inflows will be coming annually. It's different from going to look for a loan, whether you get it or not, you are not sure, and then you start, and then there's you are unable to service loan, as government, and then funding is cut. Then agribusiness is hanging in there. We definitely need.
So you are pushing this agri-fund concept.
Seriously.
You mentioned it in the past.
Yes.
You've said it again.
Yes.
The president has taken note.
Yes.
You don't think it will become, that a lot of times when people have government funds, sometimes people see it as a chance of just sharing it to party apparatchiks. So what systems must be put in place to ensure that this fund works?
We've had Get Fund.
Yes.
And with Get Fund, I know that there is governance of the fund.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't just set up Agri-Fund and say we have Agri-Fund. We need to also have the governance of the Agri-Fund to make sure that there is value for money and there is accountability. And it must tie in with a strategy. So we don't just have the fund and the money is sitting and today, there's a strategy and we are raising the funds to meet and implement the strategy. But governance of the fund will be very critical.
The other sector is agro-industrialization, value chain development, and market access. What is this and why is it important?
If you take the northern part of Ghana, which constitutes 64% of our land, adding OT region to it, tell me 5 major or large-scale agro-processing firms, indigenous agro-processing firms that you can find on a land that constitutes 64% of our total land area. It's not there. So when we talk of agro-industrialization, we are looking at a situation where we'll have agro-industrial hubs in strategic locations, very intentional in nature. Very, very intentional in nature so that we direct investment into these agro-processing hubs. When we direct investment, there is irrigation, road networks are built, warehouses are there, agro-processing facilities are there, electricity is there. Once government opens up, private sector will quickly jump into it and they will deepen investment, leveraging on the initial investment of government and the public sector.
Thank you, Daniel Fahini Akwe. We've been speaking to the CEO of the Agri-Impact Group here at the sidelines of the National Agribusiness Dialogue.